I know that you're involved a lot in chanting, which I completely consider as a musical act. If we talk about music as sound and we're manipulating sound and using sound. But could you talk more about your experience with chanting? Why do you do it? What are the feelings you get from it? What's the difference between just you and a group of people? Anything you want in this.
Okay. There's a tradition of chanting in various ways in most cultures. But the particular one that I came across is a part of my own spiritual path. And what is my spiritual path? In general, it doesn't really mean much to people unless you explain it. But it's kind of called, we would call it the I am faith. And there are a very small number of organizations or churches or groups who are part of that. And I've been one of them for a long time. And what we do is a lot of the chanting we do is called dynamic decrees. And it's important to be able to release the sound, but it's a training which is not that difficult for most people. People can pick it up fairly quickly, but it's quite esoteric to explain. It involves the chakras. It's a way of making things happen. It's a way of really actually making things happen. And it might be that you're changing your own consciousness and that's what you're doing. But it's also, you can create thought forms which are invisible. You can't see them with physical eyes, but they're very real. And thought forms are things which can move anywhere in the world, like people believe a prayer can. It's the same thing, really. You can send a thought form to Australia, but a thought form is an active thing which can make something happen. So there's all kinds of things you can do with a thought form, and but dynamic decrees is the main thing we would do. There are also kind of very powerful prayers, but a dynamic decree is where it's given in rhythm, and it's a very definite rhythm. Each decree has its rhythm, and you might repeat it 3 times, 12 times, 100 times. You might do the same, and it might have verses and a chorus. So you might have 3 verses and a chorus you repeat, but it's done, once you get into it, you're using the voice, sure. So you've got the sound, but with the voice, which is the power to make things happen, you add positive feelings, which I would say is from the heart chakra. So you would imbue the thought form you're creating with love. It depends what you're doing. And it's got to have shape or some kind of formative force, whether you're decreeing for yourself or for somebody else nearby or far away. You might be decreeing for a whole nation or a situation, but you've got to have some kind of a visualization, which is the use of the third eye. You don't have to know about the chakras, but you are visualizing. So when you get down to it, in decreeing, you're giving verses and a chorus in rhythm, and they're very particular wording. You're imbuing lots of positive emotion into it. You've got to become pretty facile in visualization. So your thought form has got particular colors, shape, but then once you're used to doing it, it becomes more and more powerful when you give it faster. And if somebody has never heard decrees being given before, walks into a room or a hall where people are giving certain decrees, they're being given so quickly, you wouldn't even know that there were words involved. It becomes a kind of a blur, but there are consonants in all that. But an outsider wouldn't probably be able to make out the words. It's very quick. And you speed up, and with the speed, you get more and more effectiveness. And the more people doing it together multiplies the power of the decree, although it's fine to decree on your own. And there are decrees for specific things. You might decree for the purification of your government or another government. You might decree to stop war. But many people these days have heard of the violet flame. I don't know if you have. The violet flame is something which was first taught about in the 1930s. And you can use the violet flame. What the violet flame does, it purifies substance at all the different levels. So if you visualize violet flame around yourself and give a violet flame decree, and you can do it just for yourself, you're purifying your physical body so it can be healing. You're purifying your emotions so you become uplifted. You're purifying your mind, and it's actually balancing karma. Every morning when we wake up, we're kind of given a pocket of a certain amount of karma, negative karma. I mean, we're given positive karma as well. Karma can be positive. It can be anything. Karma is the return to us of energy which we've sent out, either a week before or a lifetime before, because I believe in reincarnation. But when you send energy out, in the end, it's got your signature on it. It's got your vibration on it, and it's got to return to you one day. And positive karma that's great, but we receive a certain amount of negative karma every day in the morning, and that's going to outplay during our day during the course of the day. And it might be small things like you stub your toe, or somebody is unpleasant to you, or the traffic is bad. It might be something more serious. It might just be that you don't feel too happy that day. But if you give the violet flame, that's an example of a key decree to use the violet flame, and it purifies your aura, and it transmutes the karma on the instant so that you don't have it through the day. And it's a wonderful feeling, because once you're used to doing it, and that can happen quite quickly, just 2 or 3 minutes, the first 2 or 3 minutes of giving violet flame decrees, and you feel different already. You feel uplifted, you feel buoyant, everything is sparkling with light, you feel happier, you feel joyful, and you can go through the whole day like that. And then you can give more violet flame than you need for the day, which means that you're transmuting karma which would come to you in the future. So it's a key spiritual method of treading the spiritual path. And that's just one kind of decree. 2 more things I would say on decrees, and
Yes.
first of all on the violet flame in particular, that when you give the violet flame decrees daily, you get used to being in that much more buoyant mood all the time, and it's hard for anything to get through that and to negate it. So it's as though it feels as if nothing can go wrong in your life. I mean, things do, but you can deal with it so easily. It's one phrase, one other alternative name for the violet flame is the joy flame, because when you're free of all that stuff for the day, you just feel so joyful. It's like purifying the physical form. That would give physical health to you, wouldn't it? So the violet flame in particular purifies your emotional self and your mental self. and that also opens the way for spiritual inspiration to reach you more easily. But the point is that once you've given it every day for quite a while, and you get used to being on that level, I admit that for one reason or another, a couple of times in my life, I've neglected it, and a few days goes by when I haven't given the violet flame, and it's like, whoa, what's going on here? It's like there's lead on your shoulders, and it feels so wrong. And then you realize, well, this is what I used to accept as normal consciousness. And for one reason or another, as long as 2 months has sometimes gone by in my life when maybe I got lazy, or maybe there was things going on which I had to deal with and just work physically morning till night. But you get back into that consciousness which you were in before you started giving the violet flame. And then you start doing it again and think, why did I ever stop doing this? And then you're back into that feeling of buoyancy all day long again. But another thing about decrees in general, as a musician, you'd be really interested to hear them. They're not musical in the sense that the decrees sound beautiful with beautiful melodies. They're a science, but you'd be interested just in the sound and the speed and the rhythm. And if you have a group of people, and I've been in groups as large as 3,000, when you're decreeing with 3,000 people, that's really something. And obviously you've got leaders in a situation like that. You might have 2 or 3 leaders with mics, and they're leading the decree. And they intuitively know when to go up a pitch and then up another pitch. And so you can start raising the pitch you're decreeing at. And it's a very interesting phenomenon. You kind of know when to do it. It's intuitive. But as a musician, you'd find it quite interesting to hear.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I bet that feels so good with so many people. And you know, so like I said, it feels good. Your body is also an instrument. It's a resonator with sound hole, just like a guitar. We have a hole, and if you just talk or make a sound and touch your chest or anywhere else, you'll feel the resonating. You know, for anyone who's listening out there, it's obvious. But yeah, one thing I want to share, like musically, how we could do that is at a concert. I realized how important it is. I don't know if I told you this in our last discussion, but just to harmonize, like, what am I doing, right? I want to harmonize the planet. What does that mean? One thing that's wonderful about music is it attracts all kinds of people, like from all, even though you might play in this style, this or that style, you'll still get every type of person that will come through the door. But if I can, with my mic, get everybody to sing at the same time, then I harmonize the room and people feel that. So I can get people to chant on stage. It's just what's the lyrics that I'm getting them to say, that's important, you know, but they can feel that harmony amongst one another and actually do that. And there's an audience participation when you play music for people. You want to get people involved, make them feel good. But I realize it's much more important than just using audience participation just because it's a part of the show. It's like, why are we doing that? Why we're going to harmonize people and make them feel love toward everyone. And we should purposefully use audience participation for that reason. And we can get them to sing, to really feel it. That's the way. So I got to keep reminding myself every concert, make sure to do that for that purpose. That's the intention. It's to harmonize people and make them all feel love, no matter whether this person's that religion and this person's this and that. We all feel love together. You know, that's important. And also the word spiritual, I remember, you know, people say this, but it's literally in the word spirit ritual. Spiritual. It's like you said, you got to do this every day to stay on it. It's a ritual. So I feel like, what does that even mean? I think someone is spiritual if they have a practice. that's continuous because it's a spirit ritual. It's a ritual of the spirit that you're going to do. That's my language of the birds logic, as I learned with Reggie. And I want to say, yeah, and in your book also, you say the musician often is just as interested in their spiritual life as their musical life. You say that it's very common that the musician is a spiritual person in general, like it's just as strong.
Yeah.
So we need that spirit ritual. And in your musical case, it would be your chanting, right?
Yeah. I know that you talk about to your students about how many hours a day they should put into their music and their practice. And my spiritual practice is basically most of what you would call what would be leisure time. Ideally, it's a few hours a day in the morning and the evening. And when I've been in ashrams where we're living there full time, then if we're living the spiritual life full time, we also would do it for an hour at lunchtime as well.
That's amazing.
I mean, there have been times when I've been in a community where, well, there could be 7 hours a day or something like that of the chanting, what we call dynamic decrees.
That's amazing. Would you mind demonstrating one? Could you just say, like, because you said these are very specific words. It's not just some this or that. You know, you're saying it's very specific. Could you say one of the sentences or something?
I thought you might ask that. I can't do it in public because it wouldn't be authentic. Here's the book that I use. You can get hold of it. You see, it's not really, the sound is vital. Actually, it's not totally vital. I was on a journey one day on a bus years ago, and it was quite a long journey. And I had a book of these decrees, and I thought, well, what am I going to do with the journey? It was not there was not a lot of scenery. I wanted to do something useful, and I used the decree book for 2 hours in total silence, just doing it mentally. And I tell you, it really, really had a really powerful effect, even without the sound. And if you're staying in a hotel or something, and there's people on the other side of the wall, you have to learn to do decrees quite quietly. Ideally, you don't do it so quietly, but you can do it without too much sound if you have to. But it would be hard for me to demonstrate because it's such a personal thing that it involves invoking God, invoking other unseen beings. My emotions would need to be genuine, which would be hard if I'm simply demonstrating. But this is the book that I use. I am adorations, affirmations, fiats, and rhythmic decrees. And this is by the Temple of the Presence, which you can get from their website.
And you can see there's 12 little rays coming out of that sun or whatever that is.
Yeah. So
which is really,
if you were just interested in even the words, then you could get this and read the words. Yeah.
Okay. I'll definitely check that out.